Apparently we are live. Testing. There's some things I gotta fix. Uncle Andy, what's good? What's good? This is the first time I'm doing this, so I'm trying to learn it at the same time. My apologies. I do want to have a good show. Alright, cool. Good morning, everybody. You know, I'm out and about. I'm getting to the money. But I still want to have these conversations. Now, I still don't trust Trump. And we'll have a few different conversations today before I got to go off and get my next load. But I'm gonna keep it real. I don't still trust Trump. But I want to take a listen to some different talking points today. Especially from the Young Turks. But I also give me a second. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know what's going on with this. First time using this.
Needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in.
Wow, look at J.D. Vance or any.
This is crazy. If I don't use this, then there's an echo. Technical difficulties. Let me try this.
Any American politician taking on Israel, things have taken a turn. So we're going to talk about how we signed the memorandum of understanding that just happened, the ramifications, how Israel first is striking back, and in a minute, Joe Kent's going to join us in that conversation to help us sort it out. Anna, tell us all about it.
That's right, Jake. So President Donald Trump did in fact sign the memorandum of understanding in Versailles, and the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, has also signed the MOU, which is good news. And as you heard from that clip,
give me a second. Here we go. So frustrating. So frustrating. Well, today might be a dub.
J.D. Vance, along with President Donald Trump, appeared to have had enough with those who are trashing this avenue to a potential peace deal. In fact, Trump has just posted today that the United States is committed to peace, and we encourage everyone in the Middle East region to maintain their commitment to allowing our negotiations to beautifully unfold. The markets are loving what is happening with oil prices way down and stocks way up. We expect a complete ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Israel. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And there are plenty of politicians in Congress right now who are furious with the MOU. They're speaking out against it. I'll give you a few examples. Bill Cassidy is one of those individuals, saying that Reagan is rolling over in his grave. Iran's nuclear ambitions were not curbed, and they have learned that threatening the Strait of Hormuz works and will undoubtedly leverage. They will undoubtedly leverage in the future. Now Iran gets to build brand new infrastructure under this deal. Before the war, the Strait was open. Iran was being crushed by sanctions, and 13 service members were still
Instead, it looks like parts of the mad scientist
live.
community
Now,
are
13
determined
Americans
to give
are
us an
dead.
encore.
Families have
And many of
paid
these people are
billions at the
funded
pump.
by or
Sanctions will be lifted, and the bombing has stopped. This is the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Senator Cassidy isn't the only one. There are others, but here to discuss this with us, along with some of the details of the Memorandum of Understanding, is the former director of National Counterterrorism Center, National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent. Joe, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
No problem. Joe, let me start with an interesting question. Is Trump back?
It really looks like he is. I mean, I think it's very significant that he himself went and signed the treaty last night. I don't think any of us were expecting that. It was supposed to be on Friday in Geneva. They were going to send the vice president initially, and then President Trump flipped the script, and he showed up and he in person, and he signed.
All right, number one, do we trust Joe Kent? I'm going to keep it real with you, and I'm going to tell you why I'm asking that. These headphones aren't working, so I don't need them. I just look like a doofus with the headphones. And many of you say you look like a doofus without the headphones. What are you talking about? Correct. You're right. It's Friday. I'm not arguing with you. Here's the thing. I like Joe Kent, but I'm still sour about being tricked by President Trump. I'm still sour. Right? Knowing that the political game was dirty, he played it like an expert gambler, bro. I didn't like an expert con man. I never seen it coming. And it was at a time when most people wanted to hear what we wanted, we needed to hear what we wanted to hear, which was everything he was saying. Drain the swamp, America first, bring back jobs, everything he was saying. That's what we needed to hear. And it was the most logical choice. Now I got to hear from my friends, oh yeah, but you voted for him. See, this is what I'm saying. And it's like, at the time, that was the most logical choice. He was saying the right things that he was going to. I thought he meant business. His first term, he meant business. His first term, there was actually peace in the Middle East. What do you want me to do? But after that 180, his sound bites are nuts, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button on your way in. His sound bites are crazy. He's out here. I don't even know if he hears himself. He's like, I don't care anything about the economy. The economy's fine. And we can clearly all see the economy is not fine. One thing I could say is he tried to give Bibi a chance. He tried to give Bibi Netanyahu a chance. Can't fit over there. And ride it out with him. But I'm gonna tell you something. It's how can you show up to the golf course unless it's only Zionists that you're golfing with, which I doubt. How can you show up to the golf course when everyone else there is fuming because your decisions are affecting your irrational decisions too? They're not even rational, bro. This is like a first grader could tell you what to do here. And I get it. It's the world. It's Earth. So every once in a while you're gonna play the game of risk, right? Global denomination. I get it. You're putting things together, yo. If we take over them, then we could grab their resources. This is the thing. This is the dirty game of Earth. Welcome to Earth. Yes, there's slaves. I'm not saying there should be. I'm just telling, I don't make the rules on Earth, ladies and gentlemen. All I'm doing is reiterating what goes down here. It could be cool, or you could be somewhere that's not cool. It's the luck of the straw, luck of the dice. Land down here, come to this planet. The amount of atrocities, it's just crazy. I don't want to go there. It's Friday, but my thing is, I still like Joe Kent, but I have a trauma now with when someone presents themselves as exactly what I need to see. It's traumatic for me. So Joe Kent is talking right, and that's a red flag for me. Yes, now I have president issues. Now I have all type of issues. Very skeptical. So I'm paying close attention, right? Will you take this Zionist money too, Joe Kent? What's your number, Joe Kent? Before we even... And I'm going to need you to keep this stash area very clean, brother. Please. Don't do the dirty Shapiro, right? I don't know what Ben Shapiro got going on. It's absolutely atrocious. He has these Gargamel eyebrows from the Smurfs growing out of his face. And then here, it's like a 2-inch patch. Like he's trying to see if he can get to Hitler, but he doesn't want everybody else to know that he's practicing his Hitler. So he shaves it down, but it's not completely gone. He has the Caesar stash. It's disgusting. Don't do that, Joe. I need a military type cut on the face, or grow this stash. However, if you grow this stash, make sure you have a wife. It can come off confusing. Single with the stash like that, it can come off confusing. They don't know what group you're a part of. You understand? Let's get into it.
The MOU himself, which means this has his full support. Between that and the statements that he's made over the last 24 or 48 hours, telling Israel they need to knock it off, especially with regards to Lebanon, talking about essentially Iran having a pragmatic need to defend itself and just recognizing the fact where we are in this conflict. And the most important thing is reopening the Straits of Hormuz. I feel like President Trump is back. And then the great press conference that J.D. Vance, our vice president, had this afternoon, really kind of trying to put the Israeli leaders in their place and let them know that we're serious about this as well. I'm more optimistic than I've been since I resigned.
Yeah. So now we're on the left, and I certainly am, and so I didn't want Trump in the first place, so I didn't much believe in him, but you did.
Cenk, stop the bullshit. Cenk, I like you, brother. I do. I like the Young Turks. Knock it off. Do me a favor and knock it off. Knock it off with the two-party shit. You understand? We're on the left. As if the left doesn't have its own flaws. I can't believe people say this type of shit with a straight face. We're on the left. We're on the right. Then you're a jackass too. Did you have this much energy when they were convincing little kids to mutilate themselves, to harm themselves, confusing their minds at such a young age? They didn't even have a chance to grow up. You want to sexualize things. These are kids. We didn't grow up like this. At least they waited to 7th grade to say, okay, you guys, sexual education time. No, not the left. Just get in there while they're young and vibrant. Their minds are growing. Fucking 1st grade. You got transvestites showing up to the classroom. Yank! Knock it the fuck off. Oh, God. Excuse me, folks. This is all new for me this morning. I'm trying to get used to this whole thing here. Oh, boy. I'm trying to provide a show for you guys while I'm still out on the road. So I brought my rig to my rig. Brought my podcast rig. And this is the very first time I've ever done this, so I'm setting it up. So please forgive me if any bumps are in the road this morning. We'll get it to where we need to get it to. Hit the like button as you come in. I don't know how long I'm going to stay, but I wanted to spend some time with you. I'll read the comments. Is Trump back? Also, it may be an old story, but it's worth rehashing. And I didn't put it in my thumbnail because I just had to create a thumbnail on the fly. But Kim Iverson brought up a story of a guy smuggling in monkeypox into the United States. I want to have a dialogue about this because I don't truly think people understand the business of dysfunction that has manifested itself in the United States. And this is why we're falling to pieces. We have subsidized legal embezzlement. Meaning, being able to borrow, and not me and you, because we're not the ones that's able to borrow, but other human beings who have the same flaws as us have been given permission to hit the borrow button. Say, hey, I want to borrow a little bit of cash from the central bank. Is that okay? Now, if you say, well, it's not that simple. You're oversimplifying. They have to agree. The committees have to agree. Okay. So what if these committees? Is it possible? I'm not saying it happened, but is it possible that these committees could have a nice dinner, a steak dinner, if you will, Smith and Walensky's, if you will, and sit down at a round table and discuss how it could be beneficial to everyone at the table if they were able to borrow this money? There's a lot of money being borrowed, and the United States everyday citizen has to pay back. And they're spending the money on absolute things that we don't agree with Yes, some of the money is going to the things that we need. Duh, that would be asinine for them not to spend any money on the roads. They're not doing the bang 'em up job at it, let me tell you. So the thing is, the more this type of behavior is allowed to happen, it becomes culture, and then the new politicians, even if we get young blood in there, right? You can elect somebody from your territory that you have the faith in, but they're gonna have to go walk on their own at some point. They're gonna have to walk these hallways in Washington, and then someone is gonna groom them. And they can end up in this same, with the same mannerisms and the same behaviors. What do we do as citizens at that point? We have to find a way to mobilize. We can't keep falling for the separation tricks. They've been using these. They are masters. Well, they're masters of the universe anyway. But they are masters at divide and conquer. Are they not? Hit the like button, please. I'm going to let Jink finish interviewing Joe Kent.
Right, and you worked as his National Counterterrorism Center director, and so that's why I phrase it as having him back from your perspective. And so, from that perspective, are you, given how much you went through, given the fact that you resigned, given the massive pushback against you from mainstream media, other Republicans, etc., are you now surprised at Trump and Vance beginning to represent America first again? Given all that you've been through?
Just relieved. I mean, look, there was a while there where I thought, did I get this entire thing wrong? Did I misread President Trump? And I always said, like, I can't figure this out. I don't think I misread him. I think he believed in these principles. But what took place with the way that the war was forced upon us by the Israelis and pretty much every action that we've taken since then, before, the last 48 hours or so, I was really second guessing, myself and my own judgment. However, the way that he has behaved, I think that he's snapped out of it. I don't know exactly, what drove him to get us into this war beyond the Israeli.
I don't know. I can't say he snapped out of it. This could be another trick. This could be another banana in the tailpipe, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I would like to think he snapped out of it, but then we got to ask, why was you in this situation? Most of us thought it had to be something where they had some type of compromising photo of you, right? Israel plays dirty. Israel feels if you are not part of their group, you are cattle of the earth to be used for the lowliest, lowliest? Is that a word? Bottom feeder. The low of the low. Which is crazy, because I don't think they regard the black people who call themselves part of their group. I don't think they feel the same about these people. You understand? I remember the rapper Shine, when he came out, he changed his religion. He was practicing Judaism. He even went over to Israel and lived there for like 3 years, which is nuts. Before moving back to Belize and doing what he needed to do. I think his father was already prime minister or something like that. So it was kind of ridiculous for him to to been over here shooting guns off in Brooklyn and all this crazy stuff anyway. But we live the life we love, and we love the life we live. Anyway, after the famous shooting in the nightclub and J-Lo was there and all this other crazy stuff, he got sentenced. I think he did something like 12 years or something like that. And he got his life on track, as we do, some of us do anyway. As we get older, we recognize our mistakes and we fix them. Shout out to Shine. But yeah, he lived over there, but I don't think they regard it. I would love to ask him. He's not going to say anything against it because they're very powerful people. And I doubt he would tell me the truth anyway on air, so it wouldn't make sense for me to even ask him. But I do wonder if they treat everybody the same, which I don't. That says they're part of their group. I don't think they do. So my point is, they actually believe because someone wrote in a book. Some people wrote in a book some words that they had to piece back together. If you really think about it, this was an oral tradition. They were playing the telephone game in the first place. So when they were allegedly released to freedom, and it was the Iranians who they're trying to kill now, except the Iranians weren't called Iranians back then, they were called Persians. It's the same ancestry, same exact ancestry. These same descendants of ancient Persia are the ones who this same group was attacking, but it was Persia who released you guys from your last captors and said, go practice freely your religion. And thousands of years later, after this story, you guys are out here trying to kill these same people. Well, if that's not low down and dirty, it shows that's just a speck of where your morality lies. I mean, it's nowhere near showing really what you guys are capable of and have done. If you want to talk about the scum of the earth, you guys are really going for the reward. Like, you're going for a trophy, and there's no reward to win. You just want best assholes on earth goes to. So somebody wrote in this book, and remind you guys didn't even exist past 13 BC. BC. The earth has been here for millions of years. And you guys are that fanatical about some words that were... So when the Persians released you guys went back to the Levant, and again, I'm saying you guys, but that's delusional because you're not even fucking related to these people. So the original people went back to the Levant, and they're trying to pin it down. They're trying to write what happened. And they're stealing shit from over here and stealing shit from over here. But I don't want to focus on that. The fact that we know the history. We know there were Sadducees and Pharisees that didn't agree, and they're fighting about what should go in this book. And the fact that whatever made it to the book, you have fanatics out here. Who will die thinking, no, this is the way. The Mandalorian, this is the way. And in that book, there's some type of sky god ordering these same people to run around the earth and murder people for a land. Let me ask you something. If he was such a powerful god, don't you think you would have had this goddamn land already before 1948? Or do you think it would have took... And you're still trying to... First of all, it took you thousands of years to even get that, right? I gotta say, I'm not impressed with your religion. I'm not impressed. Well, you're a thief and you kept on stealing from other cultures and then rebranding shit and making it seem like you came up with the whole idea. I'm not impressed with your God. I think your God could do more to fucking help you guys. Why do you have to commit such genocide? Isn't there a spell or some wizardry shit that your God could do? So that we don't have to kill schoolgirls and children? And I would ask, why do you have to be so barbaric and take the women sexually and all this other stuff? But in fact, it is in the goddamn scripture. The instructions that you are allowed to do so. Read it myself. Unbelievable. This is why I give a shit about you or your fucking God. Fuck yous both! I don't want nothing to do with a God that's telling people to run around and take women sexually and children. Are you shitting me? And this is why we're in the position we're in, because we have zealots running around believing this shit. They're indoctrinated and have the nerve to bring up Muslims. Have the audacity. Barbarism is barbarism. Doesn't matter. Hold on, close that. Gotta get used to this whole thing here. This is... Oh, God. What is that? I'm not used to this. Alright, we'll get it done. We'll get it done. Somebody said Donald Trump is smarter than Obama. So what? Are you people retarded or are you bots? Did you waste your time writing that? Why are you writing racist stuff? I don't like Obama. Listen, if you don't have better chat, I'm gonna kick you out this motherfucking channel. Show me some intelligence, goddammit. Shout out Uncle Andy in the building. Yeah, Uncle Andy, it's a rough one this morning, man. I didn't... I'm not used to this. I think I will get it under control. It's going to take some time. I want to move. Well, before I move on, I do want to hear this audio right here.
I'm not happy with the way Israel has handled themselves with Lebanon and with Hezbollah. Without the United States, there would be no Israel. Israel would have been blown up a long time ago had I not gotten involved. Israel's fighting Hezbollah too long, and too many people are being killed. And you don't have to knock down an apartment house every time you're looking for somebody.
Damn.
I'm going to be honest with you. I can't believe he really said that. He must have been pissed off for Trump to even have uttered those words. But they are true. And we know this. Me and you, we know this. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about a comment that someone wrote. I don't know if she was writing that to me or somebody else in the chat. She was writing, why are you comparing? I wasn't comparing. If she was writing that to me, I wasn't comparing Judaism to Islam. I have no religion. And that's why I said barbarism is barbarism. If you're barbaric, you're just barbaric. There's things that I don't agree with the zealot Muslims. You know, there's things I don't agree with zealot Christians. So I wasn't comparing that one is better than the other. Just in case that comment was towards me, I wasn't comparing that, hey, this religion is better than this religion. I don't have any religion because I think you guys are fucking stupid. If you want to know the truth of it. You fucking kidding me? I don't think you guys have done the history. I think you were indoctrinated maybe as children or something like that, just like I was. But as I became older, I just did the research for myself, and I was like, oh, this is all fucking poppycock. It's fucking poppycock. And I know most people don't agree with that because they live by, they need the God syndrome to keep it's the needle for them. If they don't have a God, some of these people need a God. There's no fucking compass if they don't have a God. They don't have anything to say, hey, I'm not going to do this because I don't have a God. I'm going to do this. They don't have no faith that they can keep their own morality together. They need a promise. Hey, I'll let you into a imaginary place of gold and diamonds. If you do good. Okay, I'll be a good boy. I'll be good. Hey, you're humping the couch again. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be good. I swear. Scout's honor. You won't be good. You're going to do the same shit until you decide to work on yourself. That's the bottom line. I found that what Trump just said as a breath of fresh air, but I just don't know if I could trust Trump because and I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on to the monkeypox story. The thing is, Netanyahu could play that same game and he can act like he got a breath of fresh air and he's come to his senses. And he can act like, hey man, I was way out of line, bro. Let's start this over. And Trump's gonna be like, yeah, you were, man. You lost it. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Let's get back to business. And then they get back to fucking business, and then he loses it again. because he never had it together. He had no intentions of getting it together. He was always going to be the dangerous extremist that he is. And he has a nation of these people that are hanging on his word. It's a belief system that they're better than everybody. Everyone else is, they call us the goyim, is beneath them. Mind you, they're the ones scrounging for fucking land. Didn't even have borders before 1948. Just roaming nomadic gypsies. Now, some people part of this group don't like what I'm saying, as if I give a shit. But what I find very confusing is, what I'm really saying is you're acting animalistic and inhumane. Stop behaving like that. And in your fucking warped head, you're saying, why are you saying these things about us? We're the victims. Which shows how delusional you are. Delusional. No one is on board with your jackass behavior. Anyway, let's move on. I got shit to do.
Political shots fired from Donald Trump against Israel. And that's not all. We have a lot more clips where he takes on Israel. And Israel now has firing back through all of their assets in America. So we've got a doozy of a situation on our hands as Trump has now turned around, seemingly for now, is arguing in favor of peace. And obviously the Israelis are livid about it. So Anna, tell us all about it.
Well, Cenk, what's important to keep in mind, and this context really does matter, is that Trump had some harsh words for Israel as he was sitting alongside the Qatari emir at the G7 summit in France. And we know how Israel feels about Qatar. So with that in mind, I want to go to this next clip where Trump seems to say some pretty complimentary things about the IRGC. Take a look.
You talk about regime change. I never cared about regime change. It's never a part, but I guess you have regime change because you know better than anybody. The first group, they're all dead. The second group, they're dead. A part of the third group is gone. And we're dealing with people that I think are very rational people. And they were nice to deal with. They were strong people, smart people. I think actually they're smarter than the first and second group. But they're not radicalized and they're, looking to help their country. So, again, I don't believe the regime change. I've watched regime changes for years. They never work.
Sounding a lot like Donald Trump circa 2016, when he would rail against the former Bush administration's regime change wars in the Middle East. Now, look, I still have this cynical perspective on what's going on. I don't trust the Trump administration, and I am worried that a lot of this is kabuki theater. But just consider the words that Trump used to describe the IRGC in that short clip that we showed you. He referred to the IRGC as smart, as rational, as strong. And even if in the end, Trump is tricking us yet again and peace will not prevail, at least we have a little bit of a gift here in that we can watch the simultaneous meltdowns of the Israel firsters here in the United States and the Zionists in Israel who have completely turned on Trump because he dares to pursue peace in the Middle East. Cenk.
Yeah, look, these are shocking words coming from a president who until now has just been totally kowtowing to whatever Israel wanted. So there's a bunch of things in there that isn't exactly right. We're not better off now than before the war. It's not like Iran was about to build a nuclear weapon and wipe out Israel and Israel wouldn't exist without Trump. Those things aren't true, right? And that's the usual flamboyant Donald Trump statements. But there's no question that he's saying okay, we've had enough of this war and we're done with it. And in this memorandum of understanding, which is now leaked, we know that yes, Iran will get the sanctions relief they're looking for. They will get apparently about $300 billion, not from us, but from the Gulf countries. But they promised to not have a nuclear weapons program. Now, you and I know, if you're in the audience and you've seen this movie throughout the.
First of all, Iran, I would never promise to that shit. Are you fucking kidding me? I would never promise to that shit, Iran. I'm so confused. Why the fuck wouldn't you ask for a nuke if everyone around you has a fucking nuke? I don't think you're gonna destroy. I don't think you're that crazy enough to try to shoot off your nuke at one country, especially mine, knowing that we will obliterate you. So I don't mind you having a fucking nuke. At all. I trust you way more than I trust that goddamn Israel. Because for the most part, you do mind your business. And for the most part, as much as these people keep throwing Hezbollah in everyone's faces, they're not going to tell us how Hezbollah even fucking started and what was the cause of Hezbollah being created. The same way they'll keep asking you to remember, what was it, October 7th? The day the hospital. But they're not going to tell you all the things they did to initiate the response that would, for people to blow up a fucking hospital. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to even. These are the same people that would blow up their own fucking hospital anyway. So that's number one. Just to get some shit started. These people are absolutely fucking crazy. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to head over into something else. All right, cool. Let's get this story going. And then I'm going to go ahead and get to work.
Well, we were all hoping COVID was a one-time disaster, a lab leak that would serve as a wake-up call. Instead, it looks like parts of the mad scientist community are determined to give us an encore, and many of these people are funded by or working directly for our government. Now, before you say, oh, this is just a theory, you're a conspiracy theorist, COVID didn't come from a lab, let's go ahead and watch this.
You know, to us, it was extraordinary that from the very beginning, the CIA scientists that were hired to look at this said it looked like it came from the lab. All of the evidence seemed to point towards that this was a lab leak, in all likelihood accidental, but that it came from the lab in Wuhan, China. And yet they were being overruled by people. Specifically, the whistleblower said that Anthony Fauci came in 2020 and they had a 90-day period in which all the intel was going through the National Intelligence Center. They were going to come up with a conclusion of what everybody was thinking, that Anthony Fauci was brought in and basically they took his opinion over all of their scientists. And their scientists were nearly unanimous. It was like 6 out of 7 of the scientists that were experts in this field all said it came from the lab. Anthony Fauci comes in and says no. But the one question they never ask, and this is the real sort of conspiracy, and people say, what is a conspiracy? Is it people rubbing their hands together and making money? Were they all in a cabal? It's not really as sexy as that. It's more that they have the same a convergence of interests. You know, George Carlin said you don't need to have a conspiracy to explain something where interests converge. And the interest is basically covering their tracks because they funded this dangerous research. It was a serious mistake in judgment, maybe one of the worst mistakes in judgment of the last century, to fund dangerous gain-of-function research in Wuhan. They fund it. Now this virus takes off, so what do they do for the next several years? Even people who didn't know each other, they're all doing the same thing. We don't want anything to link us to funding this, and so we'll just deny that it was gain of function. So I think the shocking thing was that how much power Anthony Fauci had, even in the CIA. This isn't the NIH. This is the CIA that Anthony Fauci's influencing.
So that is Senator Rand Paul.
How you guys feel about that? Right? anytime I mention that he was the highest paid government worker, it's just to show you perspective, right? Should he have had the ability to stay in that role for so long, 30 years? I wouldn't want to leave either, right? And then where's his oversight at? A committee of people he's able to easily convince? Should the CIA be abolished? Because it's something to, after once we catch you, hey, you're doing this wrong. But when we continue seeing a pattern of you just doing things that don't align, and I'm not asking the government, I'm talking to the rest of the United States citizens that have family members who built this country, right? So whether you were a slave or a slave master, or you are a descendant from a slave and a slave master, I'm more or less talking to those families. Because it was our families that built the country. No disrespect to the people who came over here, and the newer citizens that don't really have a lot of history. I think the mindset is different, though, when you can trace your bloodline back to 17 something, 18 something. The mindset is different. You're like, oh, my family was really slaves out here. My family didn't get here for the first time in 2002. 1996. I've been here since 1996. Folio. I was born here. My mother was born here. Her mother was born here. Her mother was born here. Her mother was born here. Fuck are you talking about? These are the people who built the stores, who built the schools, who built the churches, who built the roads. Right? I'm talking to these people. No disrespect to anybody. Because whether we got along or not is not the point. The point is our families, no matter what the story is, built this goddamn America. Now, as we've been trying to shape this into the land that we want it to be, clearly we are losing the reins. And there are other people, outsiders coming in, taking this shit over. And it is at this point that we can't no longer allow small things like race, color, stand between our unisons and solidarity to take back what is ours. Now, I can tell you, if you even do the history into the Central Intelligence Agency, or the Office of Strategic Services, it is an entertaining story of elite families, rich families, getting information first and utilizing that information the way they want to utilize it. These are the elite. These are the same people that want to control everyone else. It's a power thing. It's not so much a money thing. When you have money, they get bored, and then what's the next thing? I have money. How much money can I could buy? Yeah, I could buy. There's nothing I can't buy. So now it's a different fucking game for these people. And usually that's power and control. My fault. I'm going to skip to the part where she brings on her guest. He's very informative. Almost everything that he was saying, I had already read, so I can corroborate. But I thought you might want to take a listen to some of the things this guy is saying.
Stories. He also publishes loads of information and great stories on his Substack called Disinformation Chronicle. Paul, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on again.
This is a pretty frightening culture. I mean, many of us want to think COVID was a one-off. These scientists said, oh, don't worry, we don't do gain-of-function research. Meanwhile, we're hearing story after story, it seems, of biolabs that are doing exactly that, conducting research, transporting viruses around, as you just reported with this Vincent Munster guy. Anthony Fauci saying, oh, don't tell people it came from a lab. Let's start with Anthony Fauci. Why cover up the lab leak the way that he did? And do you think it's connected to like these 120 biolabs that we're funding, to Vincent Munster smuggling around monkeypox from Africa? I mean, what the hell is going on in the scientific community?
So if you go back and look, I want to say, I believe it was in 2011 or 2012, Fauci, Francis Collins, who was then director of the NIH, and Fauci's deputy at the institute he ran at the NIH, they published an essay in the Washington Post saying, well, hey, it's worth it to do this type of research. And that kind of set the tone, I believe, for the research community that we're going to do this gain-of-function research, and this is how things are going to be done. And so when the pandemic started, you can look and see from the emails that eventually came out. It took years for emails to come out. One email actually just came out recently. Senator Paul just released, which we can get to in a second. But I think what happened is I think they were concerned for two potential reasons, right? One is that they knew that this was a lab accident that happened in Wuhan. So you can look and see that they were obviously concerned about what was going on. The other one was that, well, even if it wasn't a lab accident, people would start asking, why are you funding research for this type of crazy virus research in Wuhan? Like, why is our money going there? And so whether they were concerned because they knew what happened or whether they're concerned because it would become a...
Let's slow down the conversation, because that's a question I often ask myself. And to keep it 1,000, I often wonder if you guys wondered the same thing. Why are we funding this type of research at all? Winter's in the building. Roby says we can't even, we the people can't even drive to the store without issues. I hear you there, brother. Morning, Winter. We got Big TTV in the building. Well, I'm gonna finish letting him explain. But I never know what's going through anybody's mind, so that's why I stopped and said, basically I'm saying, have you ever thought of why they're doing this? Why are they, like, what would be the need to study gain of function? These deadly viruses. Why? And then you guys wonder why I'm always talking about these people could be aliens. Listen, it's your natural instinct it's my natural instinct as a Homo sapien, right? If that's how they classify me, to sustain and preserve my life. Why would I do something that has the possibility of killing, like wiping out me, my family? This guy actually comes up with some pretty good explanations. So let's just get back into that right now. And I'm going to let him explain.
Political scandal, we don't know. What we do know, and to me, as someone, looking at it from a non-science perspective, where you're trying to explain these very complicated issues about how we know it's a lab accident because the genetic structure of the virus and everything. To me, the biggest evidence, the most clear evidence, is the evidence that they were covering it up. You don't cover something up unless you have something to cover up. It's not like, if some woman has, her husband's gone for the weekend and then he comes back and suddenly his friend calls her and he's like, well, oh no, we didn't go on a trip together. And she's like, wait, he was with you. And it's like, and then you figure out, it's like, well, have you been calling your ex-girlfriend? It's like, no, I haven't. And then you look at the phone, he's been calling, like, you're going to start to think that maybe he's cheating. It's like, you just start to put the things together. Like, why are you lying to me about things? And that's what I think is the main thing that we see, is that there was this obvious, coalition of lies that happened. More and more evidence of these lies keeps coming, to the fore all the time. And now they're caught in their lies. And there's just more and more emails coming out and more evidence that this happened.
Do you think that they do this knowing that there is a potential risk to people, or do you think they're just like oblivious to this?
I think what's going on is there's a bit of a master of the universe kind of, ego thing going on here, where they actually believe. I mean, I've been covering science for a long time. I studied science. I have a lot of friends like in this area at different agencies, friends at different universities. There's an arrogance there. We are the smart people. We have the medical. I call this, actually, from having spent so much time investigating corrupt doctors, I have a term for it. I call it MD ego, which I believe is a type of narcissistic personality disorder. And then you've got these people with PhDs who think that, well, I understand these things, you're stupid, shut up. That goes on. Like, I've been told this stuff before.
And I think this is a dangerous behavior, too, that has been normalized recently, or trying to be normalized. Professor Dave does this, right? He can clearly articulate science way better than anyone else. But I also look at it as a weaponized, an intimidation factor, right? So do not question, because I can talk better than you when it comes to science. It doesn't mean they're always right, but they're going to find a way to intimidate you intellectually. So that means you would have to go back and take the time. I don't know how many years that's going to take if you want to combat them with that strategy. But clearly they have been wrong. I mean, it would take a quick ChatGPT search, Gemini AI, Grok, maybe just even Google, to find out, have scientists been wrong in the past? And they will admit they've been wrong. So, again, the same stance I take with Zionists, then why are you so arrogant if you have the ability to be wrong? Wouldn't that tell you to be a little bit more humble with your approach? But clearly, not only are you not humble and saying, yeah, there is a chance that we could be wrong here, but not only are you arrogant for no reason at all, but clearly you've been compromised. And there are some people within your group that don't have good intentions at all. And it is the rest of us in the world that's saying, yo, look, we're not, every time someone criticizes science, it doesn't mean we don't believe in science, right? It's like someone wanting to know the quality assurance of the inoculation methods or tools, and then people getting in a hissy fit because you question the quality assurance and the efficacy. why are you getting in a hissy fit because I'm asking questions that should be asked? Where's the data showing the true data, not any BS data that you're making up because you want to continue to either get funding or you trying to get a little bit more time to create something even more diabolical? Hit the goddamn like button.
To my face. And it's not that kind of different. Like, we see the same thing that goes on in other, other areas. Like, look at the police. You have police, and then suddenly, it's like, well, no, there's no police violence because we investigated. And so what happens is we say we need civilian boards to investigate police violence and investigate other areas, of our society. But we don't really spend enough time, I think, looking into what these researchers do. And in this case, the stuff they're doing, most people are going to tell you now that it caused a pandemic that killed 20 million people and crashed the world economy.
Yeah. There's this document, you actually posted this on your Twitter account just the other day, but the document is actually from August 13th of 2021, and it's an unclassified document, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, that says
Right.
SARS-CoV-2 is an American-created recombinant bat vaccine, or its precursor virus. It was created by an EcoHealth Alliance program at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. What is this?
So this was a Marine officer who was working at DARPA, who he leaked. I'm pretty sure that this is what happened. I haven't put all this together. He leaked a project that was called Diffuse. And what Diffuse was, it was a project.
I remember doing a show on Diffuse, but a lot of my shows, you can't find these shows because anytime I would put stuff like Diffuse in the title, YouTube, when I went to go live, YouTube, there would be like one person for the entire live, 0 people. I remember when I first tried to do a show about the Trilateral Commission, 0 people. I was like, God damn, YouTube. But if I wanted to talk about some silly shit, YouTube was down to clown all around the goddamn town. You understand? So, I've talked about all of these topics that they're talking about, but they're in, like, anonymous, random video thumbnails and titles because I was trying to find an inconspicuous way of getting through the algorithm, but I'm going to try to make a better effort and see where we're at in 2026 and kind of see if they will allow, if they would stop. They don't like you to use the word shadow and then the other word. YouTube doesn't like that, So even the censorship is very, it's giving Terminator vibes, right? The whole Skylink thing. That's what they keep saying, that we're bugging and we're conspiracy theorists, and yet, right? Just the other day, someone was on here and they were upset at me. I think her name was Jess. She got so upset at me because I responded to her saying, she said, "Oh, now you're worried about zombies." And I'm like, you people are so nonchalant for people that, like, for us to be witnessing them creating bioweapons and releasing them on us. And it's like you have this just snickering, nonchalant attitude as if this is not happening. I'm looking at them trying to gauge, okay, how much do I need to prepare because you're fucking asinine and crazy? And then I can't even look to the people around me for help and mobilizing and something because you're like, you're scared of zombies. Stupid. They have a fucking guideline on the apocalypse of zombies. The government created this. Then they tried to say it was a spoof. Well, guess what? I'm too smart to think it was a fucking spoof. I think they knew they was going to create something like The Walking Dead. I don't know. What I'm hearing is a lot of people getting bunkers right now. A lot of the elites are getting bunkers right now. Something's coming this way. You keep it up with your silly shit.
Project submitted in 2018 to DARPA. So DARPA, you should know, is this group inside the Defense Department that funds kind of like almost crazy, research projects, stuff that's kind of really out there. And so these virologists had submitted a grant to them in 2018. And when you look at the details of this grant, what they looked like they were doing from parts of it was creating a virus just like SARS-CoV-2, just like the COVID virus, right? So what happened is the agency actually didn't fund it. And they said in part because they thought that they were creating dangerous viruses. Well, about a year after these people submitted grants saying, we want to create this particular type of virus at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, surprise, this type of virus ends up in Wuhan. Whoa, how did that happen? It's like who'da ever thunk, So, and this gets into a real tricky issue, which you have to understand the way research works. A lot of times when people are submitting grants, it involves research that they've already done or that they...
Okay, this is when he really starts to cook and really starts to break this thing down. Hit the like button on your way in. I'm just trying to read some of the comments here before I let him cook. I'm going to let him cook. Let him cook. Do you have any suggested videos for this channel I should view first? NZT Claw, shout it out, bro. And sorry that my videos aren't. Again, I gave the explanation, and a lot of these people were here during some very strange times, right? There's been times Unc could tell you I'm talking, and because I'm cooking so bad, they just shut down the live out of nowhere. I'm talking about freeze everything. Like we've gone through the most craziest episodes over here where we just realized, oh, they really don't want us talking about the things that we should be talking about, right? So it's not about crazy conspiracies. If I talk about something that is not normally talked about over here, I will try to bring some literature. I will try to bring evidence. I won't just be over here spewing, aliens this and... No, I'm going to try to bring some scientific proof or some type of data substantiating at least a little bit what I am saying. All right, that being said, you guys are hitting the like button. You guys are subscribing. Let's get back into this gentleman right here, because he's about to break down the business of grants, gain of function research, and the answers to your question. Why you're saying, why are we even doing this? Because it goes back to what I said in the beginning of this video. They've normalized legal embezzlement. There's a bunch of things they should not be doing, but they're taking money, doing things with it they shouldn't be doing to feed themselves. Let's get into this.
They've already done quite a bit of it. And so what the researchers then, of course, said is, well, this was never funded. You can see them saying it over on Twitter. You'll probably see them in different media outlets saying this. But anyone who knows science knows that that's a misdirection, because before you actually submit a grant, you've already done a lot of the research. And there's many examples of this happening. There's actually a Nobel Prize winner who I wrote about in one article who he had initially submitted a grant to the NIH to do a particular type of research that led to this thing called knockout mice. The NIH rejected it. He then took money anyway from other grants and did the research because he felt it was so important. And then after he got good results, he submitted it back to the NIH. And they were like, thank you that you ignored us. And then he won a Nobel Prize. So this is just one example that's public that we know, but it goes on all the time.
Wow. I mean, a lot of people want to point out, well, it's about the funding. Like the U.S. funded the 120 this is what Tulsi Gabbard has been talking about as the director of national intelligence, that the U.S., we know that they funded 120 different biolabs around the country, or we know that we funded this EcoHealth Alliance, research in the Wuhan lab that probably ended up being COVID, or we fund this or we fund that. To me, it's the funding itself is not the issue, right? Because if we just make it about the funding, then what? It's like, okay, these people just find other funding. I mean, the issue for me is not the funding. The issue is the actual doing of whatever it is they're doing. That's the issue. I mean, some mad billionaire he doesn't need any funding. So he just is allowed to do this? I mean, what's really shocking is that there's very few actual laws or controls. And we learned that when the Las Vegas and the California labs were raided and they found all of these, scary viruses. And
she makes an excellent point. Why do we have so many there's laws. Well, there aren't laws for certain things that probably should be laws, but usually these laws aren't created until something bad happens, right? So I remember when drones first came out and everybody was allowed to go get a drone. And then, of course, there was going to be one immature asshole to say, let's see what happens if I can fly this up to a plane. There's people on that plane, you stupid fuck. And I think it's people like you, if we could ever catch you assholes. I want the death, like immediate too. I don't want you sitting on death row for, no. Let's start to get you the fuck out of here. And anybody that's on that type of timing, like you want to be an asshole and risk it, Saladin's in charge. If they catch you, it's immediate death. Immediate! Get you the fuck out of here. Your crime is being an asshole and doing stupid shit. Sentenced to death. What? I thought I was going to get a couple of months in a concentration camp. Nah. I don't believe in that shit, bro. That shit doesn't work. You're not going to be rehabilitated. You're going to go in there bullshitting around. Let's just get you the fuck up out of here. Let's not even waste time. Can I tell my mother goodbye? Click. Nigga, no, you can't tell your moms goodbye. Get them out of here. Pack them up. Stupid. Right? Then you get all type of copycats. There's nothing funny about the stupid shit that you people do. Hate you, idiots. But you have these idiots on all spectrums of industries, right? I mean, what I brought up wasn't even a goddamn industry. It was more hobbyist stuff. You get people that actually go to school, have the highest acknowledgments, and decide I'm after all of this investment of time and money, I want to be an asshole. I want to be a villain. Turns out. And you know what's even more crazier? The fact that you would have a committee, a Senate, that are not in agreement with the true sustainability. We throw around words like sustainability goals. Dum-dum. What the fuck? Sustainability means to survive for a duration, to sustain, to maintain. How can we maintain if you can't decide whether making a lethal fucking biological weapon is necessary or not? This is not rocket science. And you are on the Senate, you are on the committee to make decisions? Jackass. Jackass. I need these people captured. Right? Now, it creates another form of zealotry. Because we become the people who say, no, we have to stand up and make right. So then we become the fucking Sakari. Imagine that. Imagine a few of us get together, practice, become assassins, top-notch martial artists, go in there, capture all the senators. But guess what would happen to our group? It started out as, no, we just wanted to right and wrong. By the end of that story, we would turn just like them. Because this is the way, Mandalorian. This is the human way. We can't be fucking trusted.
These labs that were being run by the Chinese guy and the Israeli guy, right? That who knows what they're doing, and it turns out they're getting arrested for dumb things. It's not, oh, by the way, you're not allowed to run a lab with a bunch of pathogens, deadly pathogens. No, instead they're getting, oh, you didn't dispose of the waste properly. I mean, that's one of the ways they were able to catch them, was that, or we think you lied about funding of something, right? I mean, that's what they're arresting them over, not over, hey, you're not supposed to be doing experiments on viruses in a lab. So that's what's really scary here, is that, the focus seems to be on the funding, but in reality, what many of us are upset about is that these experiments are happening at all. Because if Bill Gates can come along with his billions of dollars and do all of the funding himself, what does it matter, right, about that? It's what we just don't want him to do it. We don't want him to do it at all. But apparently it's allowed. Right. And that, I think, is the most scary part about this.
Well, there's a couple things here. First off, the NIH, the reason why people care about the NIH is the largest funder of biomedical research on the planet. Like, there's nothing that's close to this. Not Bill Gates. The other one that's very well known, it's a British one called the Wellcome Trust, which actually was helping to fund this research at Wuhan, believe it or not. And the guy who was at the Wellcome Trust, Jeremy Farrar, helped to cover all this up. And guess where he's at right now? Jeremy Farrar, who was at the Wellcome Trust, who ended up helping to cover up this pandemic early on, that it came from a lab, he's now at the World Health Organization. I'm glad we're out of the World Health Organization. But to a second point that you've made is, what I'm talking about, though, is almost something that's an antiquated idea, and that you're kind of right when you're saying it's not really the funder. And that's not because the funder is not important. It is. But the reality is that now this type of research has become cheaper because the technology has become cheaper. The techniques are now known, they're published. And so you're right that in some situations, you can have, I mean, the thing that I'm really worried about is not so much about some of this. Right now, this research is so cheap, and it's so well known. The techniques are now well understood. A lot of this was actually pioneered by NIH researcher guy Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina. They're the center for basically biodefense research in the United States. But this guy, he just got retired because the NIH pointed the finger at him and said, "You're the guy who designed this virus that the Wuhan Institute of Virology then created." But that was something that he did in the past. The reality is, and to your point, this research is now pretty cheap and it's pretty well understood. The techniques can be done probably in kind of a lot of different countries now. And that's, I think, that you're right. That is the kind of the scary thing. That's this isn't like creating a nuclear bomb where we know, I mean, we're now in this war with Iran over whether they may or may not, create a nuclear bomb. We're not worried about El Salvador doing that. We're not worried about Micronesia doing that, or Cameroon doing that. There's particular places where we know that there's concerns about a nuclear bomb being created, right? But this type of technology has become so very well understood and cheap to do, and it could be popping up in kind of pretty much any country.
Everywhere.
That is kind of the concern.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing is, okay, are they doing this because they're thinking, well, if we don't do it, somebody else will, because somebody else is, China's doing it. All these other countries are doing it. So we have to get on that bandwagon and do it too. Tell us about this virologist. Yeah, go ahead.
But let me go to one thing. The thing you have to understand, and I think this is a point that's really important. This type of research, we pioneered it in America. The experts who did this stuff, the world-class global expert for coronavirus research is Ralph Barrick, or was Ralph Barrick, at the University of North Carolina. He's now been pushed out. He retired this month because the NIH cut off all his grants because they said, you helped design this stuff. What the quote that I had in my story was from an NIH official. He said, Barrick designed the gun, the Chinese built it, and then they pulled the trigger. Okay? So, but we created this technology. We did it. So we can sit there and look at China all we want. And this has been the problem from the very beginning. If you go back and look, there was a serious misdirection by people like Tony Fauci, Francis Collins, senators saying, China, 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 China. Let's look at China. Remember the whole, let's look at China's books. No, let's look at Americans' books. The emails are still coming out from Francis Collins because they lied and covered this up.
Tell us about this virologist, Vincent Munster. And you've been covering this guy. He was caught smuggling deadly pathogens into the United States. Monkeypox. After they did that big monkeypox scare on us, trying to get us all to freak out over that. So who is this Vincent Munster guy, and what the hell was he doing?
So he's a very interesting. Just to back up for a second, one of the first papers that came out was in around, I believe, 2011, which was really scared a lot of people and got them very interested in this virus research. And it was run by a guy named one of the researchers was a guy named Ron Fouchier, who's at a lab in a university in Holland called Erasmus. Well, Vincent Munster came out of his lab. So he learned from this guy who helped originally create this entire panic and actually caused America to shut down this kind of research for a couple of years, so they started it back up again, okay? Vincent Munster comes to this lab. He's been at a laboratory, an NIH lab, in a place called Hamilton, Montana, a small little town in Montana. It's about, I want to say, like 30 minutes south of Missoula. And the only thing that's really in that town is this NIH facility, which has what's called a BSL-4 lab and some GlaxoSmithKline, I believe it's GlaxoSmithKline, vaccine manufacturing, small manufacturing facility there. So he's one of these virologists who jets around the world, collects, viruses. He actually was quoted by Nature magazine, one of the reporters who helped to downplay the possibility of a lab accident is a reporter named Amy Maxman. She did this throughout the first years of the pandemic. And she quoted him poo-pooing the idea that this pandemic could have started from a lab accident in Wuhan. And what he said was, here's what he said. It's really ironic when you think about it. What he told Nature magazine at the time, this is, I think, 2021, he said, well, if you think that because this virus, this SARS virus came from Wuhan, and they're studying SARS viruses there, that means it could have leaked. No, that's not true. We just study viruses that are close to us. Well, we know that's a lie because this guy's in Hamilton, Montana. He studies Ebola from Africa. He studies monkeypox from Africa. He studies all these other viruses that come out of Africa. These people take this stuff and they've been transporting it around the world. There's been other examples people have told me about that I haven't hunted down. But what happened with him was he was coming back from Africa, and they were asking. I've told different things, like there's what I have in emails, and then I've been told from a couple different sources. They were in the airport, and he had researchers with him, and they're like, oh, well, what is this suitcase? And they wanted to look at his suitcase. And apparently he tried to stop them from looking at it, and then they got suspicious. So they open up the suitcase, and there's all these vials in there. And they come to find out that they were transporting viruses. and they didn't have the paperwork for it. You know, I mean, so there's specific paperwork you're required to have under law. Okay.
Yeah.
So then the FBI starts investigating, and the whole thing just goes quiet. You know, I reported on it, I think in early May, and then he's just now being indicted. Okay. Him and the researcher he was with, potentially going to prison for 5 years. What's really interesting too is his wife actually works at that facility also. And he's been at the virus research center there for quite some time. I've heard nothing nice about this guy. It's so funny. There's actually a researcher I know at a university out in California who just sent me a text randomly and said, "Oh my God, I was at that facility in Montana several years ago giving a talk, and this arrogant bastard, Vincent Munster, was being rude to me and asking these obnoxious questions." And that's what I've heard over and over from people, is that he's a rude, obnoxious cowboy. And, you know, to me, him getting caught, you know, smuggling in viruses without proper paperwork, when we have the president has said, we think this pandemic started from a lab accident. Secretary Kennedy of HHS has said, we think this started from a lab accident, you know, in Wuhan. The director of the NIH has come out and said, hey guys, guess what? I think we started this from research we funded. And this guy's like, yeah, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna like do what I want to do. And to me, when I read this, what comes to my mind is not, well, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. I think what happened, I'll be able to confirm this, and there's now an ongoing investigation looking into this, this is how he was always doing things. He was always just out there, and let me grab something and bring it back, and I don't need to do with this paperwork. Yeah. I'm a scientist. I have a PhD. Who are you? You know, but this is the kind of attitude these people have. There's actually the guy who has helped to deny the possibility of this lab accident in Wuhan started the pandemic. Is a researcher called Christian Andersen at Scripps University. When this guy was indicted, Vincent Munster, he puts on Blue Sky for Blue Sky liberals, right? He puts on Blue Sky. I can't believe they're doing this to this guy. Like, what are these? Like, what did he call it? I think he said like offenses or charges or whatever.
Keep in mind, Christian Andersen is the same. He was Dr. Fauci's top analyst. I think he resides in Britain, and so he's a consultant. And that's the other thing. There needs to be a better framework for the requirements to even do business with the United States. But the United States has lost its way, and the system is, their systems are not caught up to their ambitions. So yes, they can use money that is borrowed from the private banks via the proxy Federal Reserve to fund their ambitions, but the systems to make that should be connecting information with this department and really enhance the efficacy of not only the quality insurance but our safety is not in place. It's very primitive. Very primitive. So they ad hoc, they have workarounds, they have loopholes, and for all of this talk about national security, it is very hypocritical because you can have the same threats that we're supposed to be doing all of this national security for fly under the banner of a contractor and we wouldn't even know it. Right? So you're going to give people a hard time for coming in this country, but not such a hard time for working with this country on volatile, high echelon projects that just know everybody shouldn't be working on. Anyway, Christian Andersen was one of the analysts that were helping Dr. Fauci cover up the lab leak report, but busted at first when Fauci spoke to Christian Anderson just kept it real and was like, "Yo, it looks lab created. This does not look evolutionary to us," meaning to the other 2-3 analysts, not just myself. Then Dr. Fauci does something. I can't say what he does. All I know is 4 days later, Christian Anderson, he changes his whole tune. Hit the like button. I only got a few more minutes to stay here with you. I get to work.
It's like he was charged with 2 felonies. These guys were charged with felonies. Like, this is not made up stuff, you know. So
Right.
they don't take it seriously. They just don't. They see themselves as above it all because they have a PhD and they are the scientists. You know, they are, you know, this whole group of the academics and the sort of mainstream, you know, media, center left, you know, media, the Brahmin left in America. You know, they have the answers for American society, and we've got to shut up and listen. You know, but that's not what I'm doing.
No, thank goodness you're not, because we're finally learning about these stories. I mean, if we didn't have people like you, we wouldn't know about these stories at all. And so you've been digging these up. And this is just really, I mean, it is obviously unsettling that they're still playing around with viruses with no concern over. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I mean, one of the things to understand is, again, you know, this is not just like you've been, you know, kind of banging on about is like, you know, this is not one incident. Why is this still happening? The thing you have to understand is because this is actually, you know, and I just sort of put this all together. This is actually not virus research, okay? Any more than when we get angry about vaccines, it's vaccine research. This is an integrated system, okay? This is biodefense. And, you know, from what Biden did in one of his...
Listen, this is the part where he really breaks it down. This is biodefense. So you have to create a problem to create a solution so that you can create problems to create a solution. This is what's been going on, right? And people keep telling us to trust the science. Hit the subscribe button as well if you're just coming in. You understand? Share this with your friends and family to educate other people.
You know, annual request to Congress, it's $88 billion. And here's how the system kind of works, okay? We give grants and contracts to these researchers to go out and collect these viruses in different places, right? They bring them back to these labs, right? They start messing with them like, ooh, what happens if I make this thing more dangerous, you know? Then they make it more dangerous. Then they start working with a pharmaceutical company and they're like, you know, oh, let's like make these antivirals and these things to deal with this dangerous virus along the way, right? So that's a contract that then, you know, gets to come into a university. Then you make these products, right? These you know, antivirals, these vaccines, and these potentially dangerous viruses, some of which we created ourselves. And then those products get sold back to the American government. So it's an entire money-making system that goes round and round and round and round and round. Now, and here's the interesting thing. One of the main lobbyists for this is the former senator from North Carolina, okay, who helped to pass all the laws, pass, you know, how these are going to get approved through the FDA, pass different biodefense packages, okay.
And what did I tell you guys? I told you you're focusing on the president all the time. You're allowing the Project Mockingbird media to shift your focus to someone who really doesn't. He is part of the equation. He is a variable. But you're totally disregarding the rest of the equation, the statements in the equation. There are other variables here, which are the senators and the congressmen who are being compromised, right? They're taking meetings. Things are being suggested in these meetings where they can get compensated if they were able to persuade the rest of the legislative body, these senators are compromised. So what we have to do is start to put the flashlight on these imbeciles and these treasonous bastards.
Okay, and on his way out the door, wrote a report in 2022, before he's about to retire, wrote a report that said, let's not talk about things happening in the United States. China, right? Then he leaves, okay? This is at a time when the main researcher for all this research is Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina, okay? He then joins the board of Ralph Barrick's company, which has gotten a grant from the National Institutes of Health. And he is now a lobbyist at DLA Piper. Guess who one of his clients is? The University of North Carolina.
And this is what I'm talking about when I say legal embezzlement, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say legal embezzlement. Oh boy, they're doing that again. They're sabotaging the live. It's all good. I'm about to end anyway. I don't have a lot of time. There's no reason for my connection to be poor. Absolutely none. My 5G box is right next to the computer. There's nothing else on my box. I brought the box specifically for my truck so that I can do this out here. So, it's ridiculous that you're telling me my signal is poor. Ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even going to waste any more time. I appreciate you coming and allowing us to brainstorm, have open conversations about the climate and the temperature, the political climate, the social climate. There's a lot going on. We feel censored in a lot of ways, and even when they say they're not censoring us, it feels like the ratio of content is disproportionate. So there's an overwhelming amount of mass distraction content versus the amount of intellectual content that would inspire us to have conversations for true sustainability. It's disproportionate, and I don't think that's by a mistake. I think it's by design. So I do appreciate any time that you even stopped on the channel and say, hey, what's going on over here? What we got going on? Hit the subscribe button. You understand? Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Share the live with whoever you can share it with, so that we can build this community, and hopefully we can make an impact just from here. They would hate that. They would hate that these people found a way to mobilize. Haven't we set enough racial traps? They should not be able to work together. What is he saying over there? We know your racial traps, right? We know your tactics. I don't want to fall for it. Get out of here. Like, seriously, if we were all to, they know for a fact, if we were all to get on one accord, there's nothing that the agencies could do, period, to us. That's the scary part. And in fact, the people that are members of their agencies would have to bow down and say, hey, how can I join you guys? We don't want you. Thank you. You're a jackass. You tried. That's why we formed, because you tried to kill us. Literally. Not figuratively. Literally. You tried to fucking kill us. And now that we're in charge, you want to join us? Please. So stay vigilant. Keep your wits about you, as my grandfather would say. Keep your nose clean, as my grandfather would say. Enjoy your weekend. Right? I'll be back on tonight talking probably more hip-hop culture. So if you don't join me tonight, I get it. I think what I'm going to do is just talk political and social climate stuff in the morning. And then at night, I'm going to do my hip-hop thing. And this is what I like to do. You understand? I don't know if it's ever been done because YouTube keeps telling me to choose one thing to talk about. And I don't want to do that, and I'm not going to do that. Other than that, you guys have a blessed day. You understand? Good vibes to you. And I'm up off of here. Let me see. Let me read these last comments before I get up off of here. Yo, thank you for the donation. NTZ Claw. Sorry, my comments wasn't aligned, so I couldn't see that you had donated. So I appreciate you. Welcome to the channel. Thank you. Appreciate you. There's no real schedule, bro. That's why I brought... This is the first... Yo, in NTZ, you catching me for the first time with an actual setup in my truck. This is the first time. I just brought my mic. I brought everything. And I said, let's see what happens. And in the beginning of this very show, I had difficulties because this is the first time I'm doing it. So there's no real schedule yet. As I begin, it's hard because I drive trucks. So I'm trying to create a schedule and a normalcy for people because shows like mine are needed, right? Shout out to Jimmy Dore. Shout out to Sabby Sab. Shout out to Kim Iverson. You know, if I'm under anybody, I'm under these guys. Like those, that's my clan right there. They probably just don't know me. I have a way smaller channel than them. But soon, hopefully, they'll be like, yo, I see you out there doing your thing. And I'll speak to Jimmy Dore soon, and we'll get that alliance going. But it's ultimately the people that have to push the channel, right? It's the people, and I have to be more consistent. So that's why I brought this rig out to my rig, and I said, all right, anytime you could do a show, let's try to get it popping. So there may be times I start at 6 in the morning. There may be times I start at 8 because the load has to be where it has to be at a certain time, right? So that being the case, but my intentions are to still allow us to build together. We have a Substack, and we also have a Discord. They are not functioning right now because my right hand man had passed away, and he was the one who really kept everything aligned. So that team had fell apart. So what I have to do is build a new team. And we will get the Discord back up. We'll get the Substack back up, right? If you're subscribing to the channel, if you're over here all the time, then I can't be the only one that feels the way I feel, right? So that means other people feel this way. And as long as they're not extreme, I would like some of these people to join the Substack. You're going to be contributors to the Substacks, be contributors to the Discord. I don't like extremism. You know, I troll people, but I don't push hate. You know, I may point out somebody else's hate, a crime war, a war crime. but you're doing it and it's like, oh, I made a mistake. You didn't even apologize. You didn't make a fucking mistake. And I'm going to point you out and highlight you to be the fucking animal that you are. I understand war on this planet. I understand war between nations. Hey, I want your shit. Well, come take it. I understand all that. I'm not naive, right? But if we have already decided the things that we're not going to do with me trying to take your shit, and then you have a group of vigilantes that's out here just doing whatever, and they're allowed to just, no one's to talk about them because they come up with made up words like, yo, that's anti-Semitic. Actually, that's a fucking bullshit word that you're spewing right now. It makes no goddamn sense. The definition, if you pull the two words apart. And that's neither here or there. What we're here to talk about is you shouldn't have the ability to be recognized anymore because you have shown that your integrity levels are off the charts, non-existent. I don't expect everybody to be perfect, but you guys are monsters at this point, given the track record, your track record, not what I'm saying. You, with the shit you're doing, is asinine and just ridiculous. Anyway. That being said, let me get out. Yo, Roby, what's up? Anyway, Roby has to transport bees, wrestle bears, or something. He has to do something in nature, so we have to allow him time to be Roby, right? Let's leave time for Roby to... Maybe we only exist because Roby's out here fucking training bees. After the scientists and everyone else allegedly tried to kill all the bees and the birds. Remember when all the bees and the birds were dying? So shout out to people like Roby who takes the time. There's a guy up the block from my house who also has a bee colony. Shout out to you people. Shout out to you people. Yeah, he keeps the bees happy. Shout out to Winter. Shout out to everybody. B. Dolo, Uncle Andy, obviously, right? Spitfire. Even some people I haven't seen it around. Frankie Blanco. So, I'm going to go do this load. Then I'm probably going to come back tonight. Talk some more about Prince Miller on the hip-hop nights. Zip with the drip. We'll get into it. I like what Prince Miller got going on, but we'll talk about that later. You heard? Pretty Divine, thank you. Shout out to Pretty Divine. Shout out to Kush. Do remember Splashing. He passed away. That was the right hand. Trisha was with us. She's doing something. Maybe I think the channel probably got a little bit too much for her. There's a lot. She took it hard when Splashing died. And it was a lot, you know what I'm saying? And then also she was probably struggling with the belief system. It's a lot. I'm a lot to take in. But you don't have to do what I do. We have people over here, they don't necessarily believe what I believe. Original man, shout him out. He's over here all the time. He believes what he believes. Right? Truth Lady. These people, they come over, they kick it with your boy. They believe what I don't try to get them not to believe in their God. I only say what I don't believe in. And I tell the reasons why. I think it's when I start telling the reasons why with people like, all right, let me shut him off. Because I will start to make too much goddamn sense. Don't listen to me for too long. Otherwise, it will start you to thinking it. We don't want that now, do we? Anyway, these people are waiting for their load. So, let me get this done because I can't wait to really get busy tonight. That being said, I'll check y'all later. Peace out.